Sustainability and Community Enhancement Ad Hoc Committee regular meeting for Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. Can I get a roll call, please?
Member Cole?
Here.
Member Puryear?
Here.
Member Hans?
Here.
Member Richer?
Here.
And Member Twitchell?
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Okay, I'm here too. Next up is a consideration of the February 15th, 2022 regular minutes, and I understand that we have received some comments, mostly on syntax and format due to the automated speech-to-text software the village is using. I understand there's nothing of significant substance, it's just clarity.
Correct.
Can we, unless anyone objects, can we get a motion to approve with the changes?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. This is roll call, all in favor? I forget.
Just a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next up is non-agenda items for anyone in the audience or online. I don't know that we have anyone.
Have anyone?
0.
Okay. Next up, we'll get to the general business. Joe?
So there are a handful of items for you to consider this evening. The first item, 4A, is a backyard chicken application regarding the property located at 425 Lincoln Avenue. Ainsley Rutledge is the petitioner. Application was complete. No issues from staff's perspective. Review of the application. Notices were sent out not once but twice because of the meeting. There was no feedback, no comments offered by any of the neighbors. Unfortunately, the applicant couldn't be here tonight due to a family emergency, but I did have a conversation with Co-Chair Renner, and we talked about going ahead and let the petition be heard, given that there was no other comments, and it's pretty standard at this
I
point.
just had one question, more out of curiosity. Did anyone go visit the site? You guys usually do that first, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there a fence? Because like her picture showed, like the coop would be against a fence, but it didn't look like her yard had one. Again, it's not a make or break thing. I just was thinking about her neighbors.
Is that the wire mesh fence in the back?
Yeah, there's a wire mesh fence.
Is it
with
wire?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it would be against that.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, I couldn't see that. That's it.
And there's a dumb question between this photo and these photos. What am I looking at, the difference? This and this. They look like two different things.
This is
A fence.
the inside of that.
Coop.
Okay. So
It's
this,
showing, demonstrating the space, the volume of space
Okay.
in that area.
so this one, yeah, okay, so I get it. So there's a different
Yes.
enclosure than here. Okay, all right, that's all I had. Any other comments, questions? Okay,
Get land.
So that sounded like a motion to,
Yes, that was it. Yeah.
okay, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Member Cole,
Aye.
Member Puryear,
Aye.
Member Hans,
Aye.
Member Richer, sorry, Member Twitchell.
Aye.
Co-chair Renner.
Co-Chair Renner votes on these?
Yes.
Yeah.
There he is, he did. Okay,
So does I. So do I.
that's true, sorry. The other co-chair.
Another.
Pardon the
another
hiccups here.
week.
I'm a little out of practice sitting here,
It's okay. All right,
I think we all are. It's been a while since
right?
we've been in the
In
room.
person.
So the next a topic under general business is a program that a member of the committee has brought forward to be an SEC-sponsored event that she would, Member Hans would carry the flag for the committee and on behalf of the village. And I think previous types of initiatives like this, whether it would be more like a working committee initiative, those types of issues have been brought forth to this body for consideration, and then support or no support to move forward with those types of activities. There was that consensus was taken, and it's been supportive so far for the other issues. I'm trying to remember the last one that was done, but anyway, so I think the idea is have a conversation about it, and if you want to move forward with it, then cut member hands loose.
Yeah, we had one, I remember doing the chicken one,
That's what it was, yeah.
and had a live chicken who escaped. And I chased it all over
That's what it
downtown.
was.
Do we have video footage of that? Or, no?
I don't think so, but
Never happened.
Good story.
I caught it outside Village Hall in a bush, so yeah, it was fun. I just kept thinking it's gonna get run over in the middle of the street and there's gonna be in the newspapers.
Right.
Chicken.
Demonstration over.
But Drew and I were talking, I think that we've mentioned several times about the importance of educating all the various programs we had. And what I'd like to propose is that we use this as part of a larger framework to establish an education, I don't know, subcommittee or an education initiative where this would be number one of several events where various members could decide, like, you know, I manned that thing out on the Village Green, or man an event at the Public Safety Building, where we say, okay, the next one's going to be on lighting, or the next one's going to be on chickens, next one's gonna be on recycling. You know, we have a board, maybe the students could put up with the different things that can and can't go. One of the things we've also, Drew and I talked about, and we keep going back to, is where can we hold these educational events? And this, can we do it? The farmer's market is a lovely idea, but we have to go through the farmer's market committee if we want to have it right in the downtown area, or we could be off to the side, or we could hold a special meeting and invite people. But I think, I like the idea when residents are gathering in a certain spot to just stop by and get education, get some information. So what I'd like to propose is that we establish an education group, and besides in person, that we would also look at the way the website is being organized, because we brought that up a couple times as well, like where can you find this information? And then we start off with this as the first thing that we would want to use the educational group for.
Well, I'd like to take a few minutes and kind of explain my vision.
Okay.
And then we'll see if that melds with the mission of this, or this group, and if it fits in with this idea as well. But when I became a member of this committee, the natural spaces key area really spoke to me. And I think that the way we can have a sustainable community is by taking ownership of some of these key areas. So my vision was, I looked at NS5 and thought, we've got Washington Park. The way to get people involved in the community, to educate them, is to really start a program. And so I thought that I would call a program How to Tend a Garden, and use Washington Park as our garden because it's chemical-free. We've got Canucan supporting us. Deirdre Toner, DT's Design, was the planner of that. And we've got a commitment from Canucan not to put chemicals there. And it's a great place to put the word out to say we're going to start a How to Tend a Garden program. And it might be every season. So the spring would be how to do spring cleanup in your garden at home. So Washington Park would be a demonstration garden. And sustainable means that you don't put chemicals on the lawn. If you cut things back, you do it at a certain time, at a certain height, and maybe this is what you do with the seeds. So I was thinking that I would like to take that program and come up with a plan to introduce it to the community, maybe get the village involved in terms of taking emails if people want to learn more. We'll have specific dates. And then whoever is interested in the community comes, and we take an hour or so to do a demonstration, teach people about the plants and the trees and talk about the season, and really use that as a platform. So it would be a real program. But my hope is that I can say that this is an SEC program that speaks directly to the sustainability plan of Lake Bluff, because I have a feeling that a lot of people really don't know that we have this plan. It's a beautiful plan. It's very detailed. It's got, we've got light pollution, we've got recycling, we've got stormwater management. Just in talking to people that I know, someone says, oh, I really care a lot about light pollution. I'm glad somebody's doing something about that. and somebody else says, I was just looking up recycling, and can we do this? So I think there are people, we have residents, and some of them have real hot buttons. So I don't know the nature of this committee well enough to know if each one of us could take ownership of a key area and then run with that in some way. Instead of, I think that hands-on is real important, and getting people involved. And, in terms of natural spaces, Jacques Cousteau said one of my favorite things, which is you protect what you love. And in order to love something, you have to have a relationship with it. So getting people out in the yard with their spades, digging, this is a weed, this is that will create that relationship that will lead to a bond, that will lead to a lifelong desire to protect. And that's how we get to sustainability. So I would like to propose that How to Tend a Garden is a program. I'd flesh it out, I'd run it past everybody here. If you got the backup, then we'd come up with, the SEC is sponsoring a program called How to Tend a Garden. I'd be the contact person. And then, we'd find a way to generate interest. And I think a lot of people would like to come. Whether they come back again and again, I don't know, but I think it's a good idea, but I think it becomes even more powerful if the SEC of the Lake Bluff Village Administration owns it. And it's not just me, or it's not a separate committee, it's us. So, and I know that you're really passionate about the bikes.
Right.
And that, I'm not trying to volunteer you for anything, but that's an example of,
Well,
I've seen, that's important to you.
right.
So I don't know if I'm proposing something that this committee was not meant to do, or if it's worth a discussion to say, I think we'd have a bigger impact if we had boots on the ground doing work instead of getting together and talking about things. So I'd like to put a piece of this plan into action with How to Tend Your Garden. That was my idea of doing this. So that's where I'd like to bring it to this committee for discussion, and then maybe the next step for me would be to come up with specific objectives and a calendar, a syllabus, and get my sponsors, and we could come and do a presentation if you want. But that is what the essence of How to Tend a Garden. It speaks to this plan, and we would promote this plan and the SEC in a public forum.
I think, I agree with everything you're saying. I think it should be done. What I'm proposing is that teaching a course, it's like you got to have the university and the administration part of it to teach the course. What I'm proposing, whether we call it the SEC Education Program or the SEC University, in order for the SEC to be an official part of this, my vision is that we have some sort of overriding structure for these programs. In other words, you bring it up to the committee, we vote on it, you bring the program that you want to use so we can see it, and the administration can see it before it goes out on a public course.
Yes.
So, and then as part of this SEC University or SEC Education, we can start to list some of the topics, because it really falls into two things. One is best practices. Because although we have various goals related to this topic, we don't specifically at this point have not ordinances, but anything written in terms of pesticide use. It would be, so there's best practices, but then there's also the second thing, which is the initiatives and programs and ordinances that we have developed or in the process of developing this year, and rolling those out as this is coming. We want to kind of preemptively talk to the public about the lighting ordinance, or a bike path through downtown, or mosquito abatement, whatever it is that we decide, this should go through the education process. Who's volunteering to man these classes, and how do we review the program as a committee before it goes out? So that's just my thought about kind of structuring it a little bit.
I would just add that historically, advisory bodies like this have not been working committees. And and this is kind of a little bit of new ground,
I know.
but I don't think it's not off limits per se. And so the idea, I don't know if people should feel compelled to do something or feel like they need to adopt something, but yeah, can it be done? Sure. But, putting the, bookends and around kind of getting the structure set in place, I think that's a good approach. And then we can review it. And if people are comfortable with this particular topic, certainly seems to be consistent with the plan, right?
Right, it fits in with,
Expandable.
yeah, this natural spaces, there are organizations right now doing a lot of these things already. But they're not under an umbrella, they're all kind of separately doing things, and we're trying to connect. And SEC would be a great umbrella.
Right.
And if we have targets, these are targets. And if I say, I'm gonna take ownership of an S5, and this is how, and I can demonstrate that and bring that forward, that the committee, if this committee says yes, and then it has to go to the board or wherever it has to go. But I don't want this to get bogged down. It's already spring. So I want to start, here's my thing, I want to start that spring cleanup, how to tend a garden now. Because, and if you don't want to say it's an SEC thing, then I'll do it and I'll come back later and say, I did this. Here's what I did, how do you like it? And then we can put the SEC on it. I can do it on my own to get it going because, gardens, you got to move when the time comes.
Well, that's fine. I mean, you as an initiative taking and developing the program can be developed. You can just, I'm doing it, and then present it to the committee as this is going to be a regular occurrence. And then when things involve, like we're ready to release the leaf blower ordinance. And so.
Got to talk about that.
So then, yeah, that's part of our next agenda item.
Good.
And then it'll be NS 5.A. Okay, so those are the things that you've got best practices, but then I think there are ways for, as we're developing things and the committee is, not everyone's gonna watch these, but if there's an area where they can stop by and see what we're doing, what we're up to, what's coming, in addition to best practices, we'll get more input, we'll get more community support.
I think there's enough meat on the bones. If everybody's comfortable with this approach, what's outlined in the memo, the village we can, for the timing of this, we can do this to the extent of like helping in communication, helping in contact, and like pilot this and push it out there.
Yes.
And then learn as we go a little bit. But,
Yep.
the only thing I heard that made me a little bit, I guess, curious. No, not anxious, curious.
That's a good word.
Sponsor, who, what, so that kind of, it's the village of the issue, right? But
Right.
I think what you're talking about at its simplest is education.
Yes.
Which this committee spent, I don't know, how long was it, a year doing about the
Easily.
birds and the bees with the chickens? I mean,
Oh, my
right?
goodness,
Instead
yes.
and that was like Brian talked, we did it in the field, we did it here. I mean, it was a
Right.
lot of it, and that's what the whole purpose of that was, building community education around that to develop those pilot programs that now are codified, right?
Yes.
Right. And I think that's my only issue, and I'm sorry if I'm being picky in terms of the official SEC stamp of approval, is that it goes through the committee and it's, but like you're saying, Drew, it doesn't stop the village from supporting a green initiative and getting it going. But there are a lot of things that I think that personally, I would enjoy some of them. Just going over all the recycling things, knowing what I can put in and what I can't put in.
Yes.
And, how do you clean something before you put it in recycling? Because they throw away if it's not clean and, that's just one example of 100 items.
So what I was gonna say, Marietta had referenced maybe each.
Sophie, pull your microphone down.
That, maybe everyone would want to take a piece of the plan, but I think it doesn't all necessarily lend itself to the same thing, but there could be, something that the high schoolers might have fun with is creating really short little videos. How do you clean your thing? Or how do you do this? Or how do you do
I
that?
actually was going to say that from the education viewpoint, if you want to educate people in the community, a good idea might be, along with seminars or whatever else you want to do, you can make a website and maybe put some informative videos on there, how to do your spring cleanup. You could videotape any seminars or instructions you might do as an in-person thing, and put that on a website that's available to the public so that that information is out there. And, you know, that gives people more info on how to do that so that, like you said, this is a time-sensitive thing, so they can just access it when they need to. And maybe there's new media at the high school. If you could offer, you know, volunteer hours for videotaping things, like seminars or whatever, then people would definitely be on board with that, I think.
Yeah, it could be like each semester, you know, we say, we want you to help with recycling this semester, and then the students could work on that. And then the next semester, maybe it's lighting, or, you know, there could be ways to, and my point being, each member doesn't have to choose a section and do it. We could come up with all kinds of ways, and I think
Like that.
that high school students could be awesome ambassadors.
Yeah, you could also work with the environmental club at the high school. I'm sure that they'd love to help with that.
Well, here's a thought, you know, you're giving me an idea here. If I say, I've got an appointment with XYZ people that are gonna help me work in Washington Park, and we're gonna start to do a spring cleanup. You can give me the name of somebody from the high school who can videotape us doing the work. And then it can just be posted somewhere. So that I'm not trying to create websites or you can post it wherever you want. And that'll take a little organizing because you can tell from the minutes, I work better from a script.
No, but it could be something
but
that is
the
posted
idea-
on the village website,
Yeah,
under the
yeah, but the
SEC,
idea
or
is
things that go out in email.
If I have a resource at the high school where I say, hey, we're gonna be working in the Washington Park, this is gonna be How to Tend a Garden series, we're gonna have people, it'll be live, it'll be like reality TV
Yeah.
in the garden, you know?
With Marietta. In the garden with Marietta.
Like a YouTube channel. So I think what I would like to, I don't want to go on and on about this too much, but how about this? Let me get this started. I'll learn as I go. It'll be a pilot. I'll do it as me and not SEC. And then come to you, you know, maybe at the end of the summer and say, this is what we did. And we think that it fit very nicely with the sustainability plan. And I propose then, based on this experience, that maybe we do this.
So I would say that the only other side to that is, if you do it as you, and it's not getting public press until after it's done, people don't have the opportunity to ask the questions and furthermore, engage you in questions about, well, why wouldn't I use fertilizer? And why
Yes.
wouldn't I do this? And you might write that into the script, but that spontaneity that would be captured in the filming process would, you know, maybe spark.
I think I used to be a trainer for the Red Cross, and there, I think, gets to be an interesting question of liability in terms of the information that we're getting out in there. I think this village of Lake Bluff has innumerable resources when it comes to gardening. We have the garden club, we have Lake Bluff Open Lands, Lake Forest Open Lands. We also have Canukin and all of the other kind of nurseries that are around here. So I love the idea of the SEC being the body that brings the umbrella, that brings this information together. I think we need to be careful about liability when it comes to the SEC is telling you how to do your garden, not just from, you know, no one's gonna die from gardening, right? Like we're not gonna really be held liable for that sort of thing. But once we get further down the road with potentially some of these other areas of the sustainability plan, like energy conservation, stormwater management, things, if what I'm hearing, what we want to start doing with How to Tend a Garden is address having potentially committee members or other members of the Lake Bluff Village help us address the different elements, the 7 different elements of the sustainability plan, really coming forward and saying, okay, this is how we're going to position the village of Lake Bluff in this educational source. This is how we are going to communicate with our villagers and make sure that we're engaging the community in a way that's friendly for sort of the digital learners as well as the physical learners. So we're hosting talks at Washington Park and demonstration sites, but we're also putting it up on the websites for other people to learn. I think it's an excellent opportunity to fulfill some of the you know, sort of things that we put in the sustainability plan of educating the public. A lot of those action items are educating the public, and this directly goes forth into that. And I think it's a great way to help the sustainability plan kind of move along in terms of whether it's identifying individual members of this committee or identifying members who want to kind of lead the charge in the other areas of the sustainability plan like we've discussed. I think it's a great idea for this committee to start working towards slowly. And one last thing, I think the booth at the, if this is the direction that we want to take the sustainability plan and move forward with, I think the booth at the farmer's market is an excellent, like, I almost would suggest one member pick a Friday throughout the season or 2 Fridays to potentially man a booth if that's possible, or find resources for a booth if that's possible. And we as a committee can decide what sort of content we want that booth to host throughout, whether it's just gardening stuff or whether it's stormwater management is 1 month and mosquito abatement is another, and erosion control and solid waste and recycling, you know, and potentially pick those, you know, maybe even split up the month of the first farmer's market is for gardening and the second is for light pollution and the third is continue to do that through the season. I'm not sure how we would move forward with something like that. But
I think
like
we
the-
don't have the time tonight, but I think that this goes into, and these can be separated, but I think this goes into, let's have a meeting where we just discuss what kind of structure that you just described would be. Let's discuss, you know, best practices versus presenting things like, when I was out there doing the chicken thing, this is what we're doing, this is the proposed ordinance, this is what can happen, we have a meeting coming up. So, you know, from the liability, that was just factual discussion of what we're doing versus recommended practices. I think that then we can put the schedule together, then we can put together the format, who's gonna choose it, what's gonna be presented. We all agree that that's what's gonna be discussed, because there might be some issues, you know, we disagree on, so.
I think it's important to call out, though, that while the SEC is the organizing body, we're relying on sort of experts to educate the general public on the topics that we choose to educate them on. If that sounds good.
That sounds good. So let me see if I understand correctly. So the way we want to work this right now is that I will go forth and create a pilot program called How to Tend a Garden. And I'll keep records and we'll use it as a learning opportunity.
Can I make one edit suggestion?
Sure.
How to tend a native garden.
No, I don't want to say that.
You don't want to say that.
No, I think that's a great idea, and I think people will eventually get to that. But right now, we that's the ultimate goal. But
People self-select out.
they do, and they will. And I'm just going to be happy if you go outside and dig in the dirt. That's how you eventually get to native garden. If you're in love with annuals or you love your daffodils, that's great, because you're out there looking at the dirt, watching it grow, looking at the weather, looking at the bugs. That's a good thing. I'm not going to fault anybody for the kind of garden they want. If we can accept everybody, then we can say, you know, this plant is just as pretty, but it's the food source for the spice bush swallowtail butterfly.
But the responsibility of this committee is more focused towards natural gardens than, say,
Yeah.
fruit and veg.
But education.
I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah,
No, I know,
but-
but if you
little bit of
do
focus.
that,
Yep.
there's such a misunderstanding about native. That, and we're finding
There's
this.
also organic, so it's
Yeah.
how you maintain your garden
Yeah,
as well.
so
Yeah.
I think just how to tend a garden is open. Maybe it's a vegetable garden. Maybe it's, you know, a ephemeral woodland garden, you know, gardening in the shade. When you leave it open like that, then you're going to invite a lot of people, and somebody's going to say, I like natives, so do I. Oh, you know, there'll be that cross-pollination, if you will.
An opportunity to foster community through subject.
Exactly.
But I think Drew was offering to help you with getting that message out. But I think, to your point, I mean, we could have a booth one week where we present, have a big board out, what we're doing on the bike path. And then you talk about, this is all natives. We decided, the SEC, look
That's
at this
correct.
wonderful thing. And people, oh, I can't wait to see this. You know, I mean, I know we're having these meetings, but when you have a spot where people are gonna stop by and go, oh, is this going in? You know, or, you know, with the downtown improvements where they stop by and we talked about light pollution. I say, well, what are you doing? Well, we're developing an ordinance, but you should know, we came up with these ideas for reducing light pollution in the downtown development. This is where the SEC participated in that particular discussion. We also participated in, future landscaping and bikes. And so I think there's ways for us to bring that message, those messages that are pure to the SEC, in addition to these kind of general public relations education parts.
Can I ask, does the village currently do any sort of public relation or education at the farmer's market currently?
No. We've done things just off to the curb, just off the site at the same
But
time.
not on a regular
Because we don't
entity
have
expected?
access.
Well, no, the village we've done other, like the central business district planning, the downtown planning. We use that, we had our planning firm that we hired on that corner trying to communicate, this is what we're thinking, tell us what you
That's on
think.
this corner.
It is.
Yeah, not on the farmer's corner.
That's
But it's
true. Don't
visible
forget, this is
from
a
the
new and
farmer's
improved
corner.
corner too,
Yes,
right?
no, I understand.
It's big new and improved,
Right,
yes.
yeah, so this is the hot corner now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that, just so everyone knows,
want
this is a separate issue with getting on the green with the farmer's market that Drew will look into. But I think this withstanding, this program or this educational thing sounds perfect to be in Washington Garden. Some of the others, I think it would be nice if we had a regular spot, and like you said, we volunteered every week to do it, even if it's just a little something.
So if there's consensus here, so I think village staff can work with member Hance to support this. It's on village property, we're gonna be involved.
Yes.
And so we can help connect too with the high school and Steve Douglas and those folks, right? We can connect those dots and try to find a way to prop this up and make it as successful as possible. I mean, the video content, the village used to be in the business of producing content, haven't done it in a very long time. We've done it, I guess that's not true. We've done it for special events, capturing that for branding and marketing purposes, but we haven't done it since the missing middle housing conversation was the last time we did something, which is about 2 years ago.
So I guess that begs the question, how equipped is the village to launch this sort of multifaceted educational campaign?
Well, I mean, we have.
Video production, digital, like website?
Yes, social media, we can do all that.
But I think that the point comes down to, with using this as a trial,
Yeah.
I think if the high school agrees to videotape it, and it's not an official SEC at this point.
Right.
But it videotapes it, puts it on whatever page or YouTube channel that they have under the Eco Club or whatever, well, we can decide, like with the material presented in the video, if this goes through a process of all of us reviewing, then it can be linked or cross-posted onto the village website, right? Because it's been, I don't say officially reviewed, but it's been made part of the process.
And I think it's helpful, actually, I think it would be helpful if this group did have at least as much blessing as it could give at this moment to really take advantage of all those channels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
true that. I keep thinking that the Criterion is a good place for the bicycle education. Are we having it?
We
are.
the village, the bike race is for sure happening. It's even more bigger event this year than it's ever been. There's a race in New York City,
There's one here, yeah.
like Bluff,
Remind me of the date again? for
July 30th,
Yeah.
Saturday the 30th.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is another area, and we're gonna talk about
So
that.
last year's bike race, the village, we offered up, Chicago Metropolitan Area Planning Agency came, and they had a booth there talking about the regional bike plan. So to your point. so
That's
we-
cool.
We gave them a booth.
They did the talking,
They did
we
the
brought
talk.
them together.
It's
Yeah.
connected with the village.
I think
So
that's
There's
it.
alignment.
Relationship.
I mean, not only is that the best way for us to do it, it's also like lessens the amount of work that we need to do in terms of gathering all the educational material and just bringing the experts in and let them talk about what they need to talk about. I would love to have energy conservation, light pollution conversations around potentially meteor shower times during the summer, you know,
Well,
like,
and the bird migrations.
yeah, all of that's, you know, like,
That's now.
it would be great if, you know.
So how can we?
I think there's enough direction here to get going, to
Okay.
pilot it. And I
Great.
have what I need. Do you have what you need?
Yes, and then I'll call you with more
figure it
questions
out,
as we
yeah.
come up, and you and I'll get in touch about videotaping and.
And using this as a kind of a first step, then we'll have a separate item on an agenda where we can go through the rules, the process, what we want to do with volunteers on the video, okay?
Or the vision.
Yeah, the vision.
Yeah.
Nice, great.
right, thank
Thank you very much.
Okay, so speaking of all of that, next up, we're gonna try and wrap up the current sustainability plan progress. I want to go through, because we've discussed this numerous times, I do want to go through and have Drew and myself give a summary of where we're at, and then we have so many items on our goals to talk about some of the top items that were left over from last year and that are still on the agenda, and some of the things that were mentioned tonight, and put those into kind of our fiscal year objectives to try and get done, and then move from there.
Yeah, and just, this is, I'm gonna be sitting here for the immediate future, and I went through this plan. I've been to several of these meetings and pay attention and watch it. Maybe you may not see me, but I'm watching. But the idea of this plan is, one, it was when you look around for the Chicagoland area and probably the US, but for a municipality of our size and our resources, this is a phenomenal plan, and the progress has been exceptional. And this, when you look at these tables, these summary tables, you would not walk away with that same feeling. But I think in fairness to this, some of these are, I would call even aspirational plans, like the whole idea of the 60% recycling effort. I mean, that is a county-wide goal that was a high bar set with the intent. We're never gonna reach it, but we're gonna keep fighting to get there, right? So I think it's, in fairness, I think this work, and you're all checking in on this and saying, here's where we're at, big picture. I think that you could safely conclude that you've done an intermittent check-in on the plan, and that I think it makes sense, as you said, Co-Chair Renner, to lay out, okay, so let's focus on 3 or 4 issues for this next 12 months that are within this plan, and then keep revising the plan and working the plan, because you said there is a couple of other amendments you're gonna add in tonight, presumably. But, so the idea, I think you've done what you've set out to do in terms of checking in on the plan and identifying a handful of priorities for the next 12 months. I think that's wise.
And I think things have come to the committee in different ways that we've jumped in on that really weren't even on our proposed.
Opportunities.
Yeah, the opportunities, for instance, we had talked for a long time on the 176 corridor improvements, and things have started to move with that. They're doing some great progress.
Fabulous.
It does look great.
Yeah. I'm like, is that white birch I'm seeing?
Yeah.
It is, isn't that crazy?
I didn't know we had white birch there. But, the bike path, which is just amazing, I'm just so looking forward to that, came to us, and we worked on that. We worked on the downtown, a little late, but we worked on the downtown. I know, I'm ribbing you. I'm ribbing you. But we're looking forward to that, and
But you had an impact, right? You got
we had an
shingles and
impact,
lights,
but
right?
the
Not
point,
all of them yet. And we don't have an ordinance saying that
do
any
not.
outdoor lights.
Right.
right, and
have
but
shields
we
and-
also have future plans to improve greening and more garden spaces that weren't in the initial plan. So I think yeah. Besides what we've had to do, we just had a lot of opportunities just kind of come that we've gotten resolved. So I agree, Drew. There's been a lot of things that we've been able to achieve that are, and I think it's nice to see them physically and see them coming to fruition.
And you're gonna have more of those in the next 12 months too, right? You're gonna see
Right.
more of those, and when you reviewed them, you put them through this lens, this plan's lens, and that's how you've done it. So you've kept the plan alive, you're working it, and so Co-Chair Renner and I discussed this afternoon, talking about what are some of these areas of focus that may make sense given what's been talked about a lot lately and what may be on the village's update. So one of which is the village is constantly updating its zoning code, which would include exterior lighting. So any creation of regulations surrounding exterior lighting, then that could be a code amendment. We're in the process of rewriting our comp plan and the code section. So now is a good time to throw that into the mix.
Can I back up just for a second?
Yeah.
Are there plans to educate the public in our progress in this plan. Potentially, maybe even sending out a message on Earth Day to say, hey, we've done all of this wonderful stuff this year. We're continuing to make good progress. I think it's really important that the public knows that these things are moving forward as a part of the village. And I think it would just be a real easy kind of post on social media or something like that that says, we're making good progress, we're gonna continue to make great progress, and we're eager to engage our fellow citizens in all of the things.
Does the
that we
village do anything to recognize Earth Day? Like Lake Forest gives away trees. Do we do anything?
Co-Chair Renner and I talked about that today too, and I could not remember the last thing we did. We have continuously celebrated and have a very formal tree planting on Arbor Day. We've been doing that for ages. But in terms of Earth Day, I can't recall.
I like the idea of us, at a minimum, sending out a blast that says achievements in sustainability and
Our plans
initiatives.
moving forward, yeah.
Yeah, here's what we've done, here's what's coming up, and we do that every Earth Day. And it also kind of puts us on a notice to keep delivering results.
But also it gives this committee especially a lot of visibility, which I think is important.
Yep.
One thing I would like the committee to consider adding into our plan is potentially an initiative around a no mow May or no mow until Mother's Day to benefit pollinators.
Got it. He's got
Oh,
it
you've
on
got
his
it.
list.
Okay, never mind.
No,
Go
it's-
Drew.
Well, I was gonna bring it up later, but yeah, that's something that's been talked about. I received an email from a resident, and I think you got a buzz about it too.
Yeah.
But the idea that, I think Glenview had a press release about doing it. And, I mean,
I mean,
that's
we've
something.
called our landscapers, it's just like, don't show up, we don't want you here. And I mean, it's amazing in my community, like, the snow hadn't even melted and folks are out, I think they're just trying to make a buck, but I mean, the grass isn't even green and they're mowing.
Yeah,
That's mostly blowers.
yeah, one of the things,
Clean
might as well
outs.
jump into this, is Drew and I were talking about NS5, doesn't really talk about necessarily specifically lawn equipment. And, mowing, leaf blowing, that general approach to things, whether we wanted to create an additional item here, this is meant to grow. And we know that Drew and I are on a committee that's working with multiple towns right now that's going through the leaf blower, call it a model ordinance. It doesn't mean that the village has
great.
to adopt it. But whether we should add a new topic in here, and then the no mow could go as part of that discussion. The-
Or that can go under sort of pollinators and whatever, but yeah.
Right, but I think it's a very fascinating discussion, and I know that I don't want to take up a lot of time here, I know we're under schedule, but one of the things that I'm discussing with these other towns is are you really just looking at the noise, or are we looking at the carbon impact too? And I said, the electric equipment has come so far, the battery technology is coming so far. It's not just a matter of noise, it's a matter of carbon too.
Yes,
So,
for sure.
I think that we could end up putting an additional item in here, a sub-item, a subtask.
That'll keep it on the agenda for us every time we meet.
It's in the plan, yeah.
Would the village consider adopting no mow May?
So if that was gonna be, to me, that is like what you're starting, like an initiative where somebody wants to pick up and run with it and say, hey, I will coordinate, the village will give, say, here's $300 to buy the little signs, somebody can coordinate, hey, if you want these signs for No Mow May, this is what we're gonna do. And that to me, that's one of those educational objectives that the village
But I
could
mean,
help
would
support.
we stop mowing for all of May? Like,
We, the village.
We the village.
yeah.
Yeah, why don't you
Like,
do the,
wouldn't that save
Friends Center?
like budgets and fuel and like maybe
You
a
can
lot
have
of
a
people?
sign
It might
out
put a lot of people out of work
explaining
though
why.
too. Like
There's plenty to be done.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
So, not a problem. So I'd have to talk some more with the Public Works crew about that. I had a brief conversation about that, because I said the same, what if we left the village green, we
Yeah.
didn't mow that. And obviously, some of it's so weather dependent, sometimes you don't need to mow, right?
Yeah.
It just,
I mean, the baseball fields, the baseball teams would probably have a fit if those fields didn't.
yeah,
get
you have to
mowed,
mow
but-
yeah.
But we could put on this, speaking of baseball fields, that they will never be turf.
Oh, God.
I don't think I'd worry about that.
Well,
Well, don't say it.
Well, it's
You know
difficult
our
to do.
neighbors to the south are
Yeah.
going turf.
yes.
They have a lot
It
more
is
fields.
egregious.
Right.
It is
Yeah, but
egregious.
they have the same water we do.
So,
Well, I think that this should be part of that item, that sub-task item, and we should have a discussion on that, what should go in that.
Well, how about this? So for that particular one, I can add a language to how this would fit into that, and you guys can review it at the next meeting.
Okay,
great.
Great.
Bring some
Alright.
copy to edit.
okay.
So what did we decide about the no-mo?
We'll add it to
Momo
the
is-
plan.
It would be, it's looped in that, if you're saying for this May, what could be done? It's difficult.
Education.
Well, it's kind of late.
What's Earth Day?
Friday.
Friday.
Oh,
Second.
Friday.
It's
Well,
Friday.
why couldn't we say, why don't residents consider no mow May? And at least give them some,
We can do something in the newsletter saying it's
Yeah.
out there.
yeah, why
But
not?
it bumps up
gentle
against the village
touch.
regulations. How tall your grass. I don't think it's gonna happen. It'll take a
what?
long
Well,
time.
you
for
know,
the-
so you could go gently and,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm screaming.
Yeah.
But, through Mother's Day or some, gently get the idea.
We can put an
This
educational
year
item
could be
in
the
there.
gentle, like, hey.
How about a gift to
did
moth-
You know, and
to-
no
for
mo
Mother
May,
Nature.
This is this thing.
For this
and then
reason, yeah.
For next year, we could consider,
Yeah.
maybe the village doesn't mow certain sections of the village at all, in order to
Could
reinforce
be a
that.
campaign of the students, then the village is responding to student wishes.
Well, the reason there's no mowing is because the bees
Right.
wake up and they need food. And that's a good story to tell.
Yeah.
Because if you talk about what the bees need, people love bees. We want to save them.
Ryan
Not all
does not.
people love these.
Yes, I do.
But here's the thing,
Loves them to death.
you don't have to, you can mow some of your lawn.
Yeah.
You can leave some of it
Not
wild,
all
and
bees
go ahead
sting
and mow
either.
some. That might get people more in.
I called my landscaper and told him not to, the whole month of May. It's not affecting my bill, but
Right.
Right.
I mean, we have a luxury in Lake Bluff where we don't have to worry about critters who rest in the havens of longer grasses.
Vermin.
Yeah, vermin, so it's something we should potentially take advantage of.
But I think we can do something in the e-newsletter. I think we're probably becoming very dangerously become the e-newsletter is more like the SEC newsletter.
That sounds good. What's wrong with that?
Or just put a link,
put a link to
Yeah.
the SEC newsletter, or to the Lake Bluff, the village newsletter.
or the no-mow
Oh, by the way, there's
article.
other things going on in the village too.
Yeah, but, also too, if we can get something out Friday which talks about the achievements.
Yep.
We could have a couple of bullet points.
I think I wrote down do a press release.
Yeah, you could just simply say,
We'll do it Thursday, so hopefully it'll hit Friday.
many communities are considering no mow May. Take a look at this following
The
link.
gift to
You know,
Mother
it doesn't even
Nature.
say, don't do it. It just says, hey, you should learn about this.
I'll try to find a way to work that in, but definitely we can do the press release.
Okay. all right.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Baby steps.
So, yeah, we came up with a couple items. One of them we've already talked about here as an initiative, which is formalizing how we're doing the education and getting that on the agenda for this year. We are working on the leaf blower ordinance, model ordinance. I think we'll have more to share as we get towards the end of the summer, where that's going, and Drew and I can do some presentations on the discussions, let you guys know, where it's headed.
All those subcommittee reports are linked through the village's website. If you're ever just curious, you can link to, there's 3 different subcommittees meeting.
Right,
and-
but I think it might be nice just to have, a half hour or 20 minutes in our meeting where we just put up on the screen what's been discussed, a summary.
Yeah,
And
great.
it also is great for the residents to know where we're going, if anyone's listening to that.
And just to, I'm sorry, just to clarify, so the educational component, what we discussed was that almost every one of those subunits of the plan has some sort of education component to it. So the idea would be to develop more of a program to support those
Right.
specific initiatives for this 12 months, and this
Right.
pilot feeds right into that.
Yes.
And for what the process is for reviewing the materials, what the schedule would be for those, you're gonna find out where we could set up. go through that process and come back to us.
The standard communication channels as well to push
Right.
not only the announcements of events, but also the results of such meetings or whatever,
Yeah.
recap, stuff like that.
And some of them may be, more appropriate in a different context, like the village at some point this summer is gonna do an update on the Green Bay Road and Bridge Replacement Plan, which is probably 3 years away. But we went into it, and we did a planning session, I wanna say 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago now. But the idea that a
Over by
lot of
Bath-
people have
Wait,
moved.
Green Bay Bridge?
Over by
Is
Bath
that
and-
by me house, by my house?
So the entire reconstruction of that road from
We were talking about that when I was on the board.
176 south, but we're in line to get federal dollars, it's 80/20.
Yeah, that's
And-
a-
But we've been waiting, and we thought we were gonna get the money last year, but believe it or
And
not,
what's
they
that
said the road
through?
was in
What-
too good a condition.
Nah,
Oh, that's a shame.
They're not gonna just resurface, they're gonna dig an 8-foot deep.
So we're gonna improve stormwater, and that, so my
Wow.
point is, like, so that's
Nice.
another update, talk about
Yeah.
stormwater best
Yeah, yeah.
practices, so.
yeah.
Which pot of dollars is that?
The 80/20, it's federal dollars funneling through the state. And
What's it
there's a-
called, though?
They're like the Metropolitan Mayor's money, so they hand out and they prioritize, and so we're competing against, Buffalo Grove, Highland Park,
Sure.
much more regional.
So the
awesome, though.
bridge would be rebuilt,
Yes,
replaced?
What about the Metro Bridge right here?
that's probably gonna be replaced in the next 20 years.
And then,
Next 20 years? Oof. Was it gonna last that long?
Yeah.
so I was told that the spur that goes under, the train that goes under that bridge is going away. Is that true? And will that be converted to a bike path? Or is,
That's,
No,
Was that a
That
lie?
is not going away.
but the coal is greatly being reduced, right?
oh, it's just the coal is going away?
That line delivers coal to the Waukegan plant, but it's still delivering other goods and services.
Yes, but
and-
are we gonna have Waukegan plant coal? I thought that there was some
Or is-
discussion about it being reduced. I'm
I
not
heard that too.
that plant's gonna be closed.
sure,
Oh.
so we're not gonna take coal there.
My understanding, talking with the Union Pacific, was those train tracks aren't going anywhere. They
Oh,
have
I'm
no,
sure
they have
not.
no desire to, yeah, they're still being
But
utilized.
they're gonna use it for freight, just not for coal.
Yeah.
Other freight, yes.
Yeah.
That continued, yes.
Yeah, but
Got it.
there isn't that much by comparison to the coal that's going out there.
I kind of love seeing
Get more
the coal.
capacity though, if there's less.
Or at least less traffic. The trains will probably be the same size, it might just be less frequent.
Yeah, hard to know.
Yeah.
Do we know when that plant is slated to shut?
I
Not that
think
it's
it's like a year
relevant
away or so.
here.
something
Yeah,
like
I don't think it's that far.
that. Yeah.
Let's be sure to
that's
The
take
biggest,
credit
the
for that
biggest
and
fight
nice
for
things
that
like-
plant was the idea of how they left the plant. Did they have to remove certain facilities, or could they
Or
cap it?
remediate anything?
Yes. There was some legislation was trying to be passed to force them to
Got it.
excavate and not cap. Okay, so, sorry to clarify,
Oh.
so that's,
It's closing in June.
there you go.
June.
So Drew, then that redoing Green Bay and the bridge, you were saying within like 2 years is the hope, assuming some of those dollars are awarded? Was that-
Assuming that we will be next as planned, right? Every project's graded and given a score based on how,
Lots
you
of
know, how
criteria.
shovel-ready it is, and all, what's the, condition of the facilities, is the bridge so bad off, and so I think we're about 2 to 3 years away.
So we're slated, it just happens.
We're in
to
the
be
second tier, and there's people in front of us. We thought we may move up because people weren't as ready as we were, but it didn't work out. So I'm sorry, Brian, you said that. we got
No, so the items that we have, I think, on the top of the list, we talked about the education, we talked about the leaf blower ordinance coming in, we talked about the lighting, developing a lighting ordinance and getting that into the new ordinance, and we also have talked numerous times about the biking, especially with the Criterion race coming up, and revisiting a bike plan and identifying the gaps, like through the downtown with the racks, and kind of putting that together. And I think as a workload for the next 12 months, that's a good chunk of work for us.
Can I ask what happened to the food waste initiative? Did we vote that down, or what? I remember, was it January or December, we had an interested party come in and discuss with us the food waste.
Community or
Oh, yeah.
neighborhood, sorry, neighborhood.
Neighborhood food waste program. Has there been any movement on that? Are we going to be revisiting that issue, or
Yes.
did I just stop at 10 minutes track?
No. So
I
actually,
remember.
recently-
I mean, they were gonna go ahead with it, right? So if we could hear back how it's gone.
No, the direction was, if I recall properly here, that they were going to come back after they collected data from the neighborhood
Yep.
and to see how much support there was to move forward with the initiative. The volunteers involved in that project have been way tied up with other issues, but there is the copy that, the marketing materials about the pilot program have been prepared. And they were, I think that was last Friday.
Okay.
So
There
they're
is
gonna
movement.
start, now that the weathers are gonna go knocking on doors in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
there's
think
movement.
that could be another great educational topic for our booth.
Yeah, of course. It could be a source for food waste too.
Yes.
I've seen it work very well in Evanston and Boston,
Well-
where people just bring their buckets full of food waste directly to the farmer's market.
Yeah, and I don't,
Really well.
again, I don't even think people, perhaps in the village, everyone understands our food waste program and what we do have,
Yeah.
I think that's true.
That's a true statement.
so.
And that's part of this was,
I have
the
a
materials
compost
was to
bin.
say, here's how you can do it now.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But we're trying to, if there's another way to do this to be more, or capture more food waste and divert it out of the landfills, here's another way to do it. What do you think? Yeah,
Maybe we should just have a bin in town.
we do at Public Works. You can drop it goes into the composting area. It's not necessarily labeled food waste only exclusively, but that's where it ends up, in the composting area.
So put a stake with a sign.
Yeah, mine's in my compost. Yours is probably too.
I put mine
There
on my
there are
compost.
a number of properties that are doing it on their own, which is perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I want to be cognizant, I know one of our members has a schedule conflict. Is there any other comments with regards to the plan? I think we've got a lot of good ideas. Could we move on to village staff report? Could you give us updates on the downtown improvements, the landscape plans for 176 and the bike path, where things are at, with some of the things going on around town?
okay, so the bike path, landscaping plans that you all reviewed went out to bid. We got the bids back about 3 weeks ago, and when I say bids, I said we got the bid in. We received a bid. It was much more than the estimate, so we put it out back on the street, so we re-advertised it.
Was that with a vendor that you'd used before?
No, never heard of them.
Oh.
Be
And,
another reason to go out on the street.
and I will tell you that many of the village's projects, hardscape, redoing we have a sidewalk, an annual sidewalk program where we replace panels that have either been broken over the winter or they present a hazard, tripping hazard. And that price was up 150%.
Yeah.
Our asphalt pricing for the road resurfacing program wasn't too terrible. It was up 8% from last year. Not bad.
Within the realm.
Yeah.
I know even just sourcing plant material is way behind and, everything's a little
Not only
harder.
materials, but also labor. I mean, it's so hard these days to get,
Good help.
yes,
Any.
everybody's busy.
Yeah.
And then you pass the infrastructure improvements and the money's pouring in, and it's gonna get harder for the village to find contractors willing to do projects.
Let's get those high schoolers. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
We're hopeful we get more bidders for that. The
Okay.
downtown streetscape program, you may have seen, there's some cones out, that the final elements of that are underway. I like to think it's gonna be done in the next 30 days. So the festoon lighting poles will go up, not this, the contract will not be back this week. They're waiting on the actual lighting with the shields on them. Those are supposed to come in the following week, so we're gonna come back once, mount the poles, wire them, put in the lighting, and then start with the masonry work, and then the caps, and then that project's done. And that's not true. There's some concrete work they have to redo, and then they have to plant the 4 trees. Yeah,
So that'll all be done before the criterion race.
Yeah, I'm hoping
Before Fourth
before
of
the
July.
end of May, yeah, so really soon.
Okay, great.
So, so that's the downtown plan.
The
and
bike path,
The
I
bike,
know that clearing has already taken place for 176, right?
that, the 176, clearing, all clearing's done. I'm not certain on the treatment, chemical treatments, yet.
Chemical?
Yes.
Well,
for Buckthorn.
you have to treat buckthorn,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just checking.
And then, so one of the things in this, you didn't ask about this, I'll talk about it, this group would be curious about it or keen on it anyway. So the village has been trying to plant more trees, right, and trying to get a net increase in trees. So I think the goal is to put in at least 150 trees this year. And we've usually done 25 to 50. So that's more than we've done historically. And so I know we've got our first 50 on order, and those are gonna start going in as soon as we receive them.
Is that just parkways or,
These are parkways and public lands, so we'll do 50, I'll say, standard trees, which are like, you know, the 2.5 to 3.5 inch caliper trees.
and these are all native, of course.
No, there'll be some hybrids, but we are gonna do another 100 of possibility place trees in the fall.
Excellent.
And so, my forester is worried about running out of places to put them, and I was like, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to
Not
it.
on my park.
Oh, which just reminds me,
Yeah.
Ed, I
I'll
don't know
take
if I
one
talked with
on
you
my
or
parkway.
Glenn. I think it was you about having a climate change expert come in to talk to us about climate change and planting.
You asked me about that.
Yeah. I'd like to have,
So that could be a really interesting public lecture that the SEC sponsors, you know, that
Yeah.
anyone could attend.
So, yeah, so to that, really quickly, you made a comment too. So just a little historical lesson for this committee. This committee was started as a way to join together two different approaches to landscaping and gardening in the community. There was a group of folks that were much more native oriented, and there was a group of folks that were much more classic and formal plantings. And this was the marriage of Romeo and Juliet, right? To bring those, the Capulets and the Montagues together.
I have no idea.
But the idea came together on that issue, and this group was to work those through those issues, and that was the birth of this committee, right? To review landscape plans and push I guess, to bring about a new vision for the village in terms of how it approach things in a more sustainable way long term.
yeah.
And so that was the impetus for this group, and so it's come so far, right?
Yeah.
Right, and so we're very active, and to the point where now it may be the first working committee in the village and forever.
Yeah.
So, but
So how does that connect to having a climate change person?
because when this group first started off, the direction was at every meeting there would be an educational speaker.
Yes, that's
So every meeting, so they came in, there would be 30 to 45 minutes spent on education issues, on sustainability or planting, and this group's kind of gotten away with it because other things have occupied, you know, now you have regular petitions for chicken, or, you know, so you become,
There's work.
so, but the idea is that was the group, and there would be topics like, who can we get next? Well, so that the idea of, so I would throw that back out to you all as,
But was that to educate the committee, or was that to educate the
goal was
community?
We have people in the audience.
Yeah, I think it was to educate us as well, because when we were looking at the chicken thing, we
Brought in
We brought
experts.
an expert in, and they
Right,
talked to
that
us, and we
makes
asked
sense,
questions,
too.
so we could make the right decisions for our
Develop
regulations.
their own programs.
I think those are two really different things, but I think as we're looking at, be it whatever, lighting or whatever, we have experts come to educate us, and the public is able to join us. But something like, what is climate change gonna look like here over the next 20 years, and how do you prepare your yard and whatever? That's a public, you know, so they could be two different things.
Sure. The only reason I bring it up is I know we have more than I know about planting, but I remember when I looked at a tree many years ago, I said, okay, well, I gotta get the right kind of tree that's gonna last 20, 30 years, and I went to the Chicago Botanical Gardens, and they had an article that listed the top trees for climate change for 2050. And then I mentioned to someone from Lake Bluff Open Lands, a tree I selected, and they go, no, you don't want that. I'm like, okay, I thought it was climate tough tree.
And why was it a bad choice?
There's something about the mess and the type of tree. It was a golden ginkgo, a golden ginkgo.
Oh, well, so
And
it's not
no,
native.
Chicago Botanical Gardens #1 expert said it was the #1 tree for Chicago. So I went, oh, they're the expert.
Not native.
But for climate,
but-
so being appropriate for climate, but so the person here may have had a different reason other
Right,
than
right.
climate to
So-
not like it.
My point is we don't want to put, and I'm getting off topic, I'm sorry. We don't want to put native plants in that'll be dead in 10 years.
Exactly.
Because what's native now,
May not be able to
10 and
survive
20
in that
years from
climate.
now, we're going to be Atlanta. So maybe we should be looking about what's native in Atlanta.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, in terms of the climate that will be here may not support species or plants.
So to that point, we've consulted with Chuck Stewart of Urban Forestry Management, who's the guru of trees, and we've tried some trees, street trees that we wouldn't have planted 10 years ago. You may have seen them around, they're the London plane trees, which are like sycamores, right, which are further south, but they're doing really well here now, so.
It would be, I think it would be very, very cool for this committee to put together a resource for regular citizens of like, these are plants and trees that we,
We did that.
A lot of that exists. We
does?
could just curate some,
Yeah.
put some
It's in our
together.
zoning code.
Yeah.
so it already
Oh, and-
exists of like, these are plants and trees that we recommend you incorporate into your gardens.
And if you take out trees, you have to plant certain species in this list.
Yeah.
Well, that was, we have the playbook for the commercial for the village, and I think that can.
But just
be
as like
applied.
a citizen resource of
Yeah.
like you said, I was looking to plant a tree and I'm like, well, what tree
I think
should
Lake Forest used to have a brochure like
They did,
that.
they had a
Yeah.
little, I remember the graphic. I looked it up at the time as well.
Yeah.
But my point is just an idea when Drew brought up the trees, that I want to make sure we plant stuff that's going to handle, because we're seeing.
For the next century.
We're already seeing very unusual cycles of drought and rain and heat and cold, and
You bet.
so,
It brings up, if we are going to be developing websites for how to plant a garden or sponsoring that thing, it's potentially,
Trees should be on it.
well, we should take a deep dive into what, if we were to develop our own SEC sort of site, what content should go on there? What content could this site be as a resource for citizens
Sure.
through all of our sustainability plan initiatives? But
And again, all that content are out there, so I wouldn't recommend that we spend time creating content, but that we
Link.
housing
curate.
it, yeah.
Right,
Sourcing it, yeah, that's what I
yeah.
mean.
I mean,
But-
NS1 right here says, publish a list of recommended native and adaptive
Right.
species.
Well, part of the reason for the playbook was not only for us to put things in there that were native and were sustainable plants, low maintenance plants, but also this committee has a thematic, a community enhancement, and to create a vision for a master plan for the town. So when we recommend trees, when we recommend certain plants, I think it gives an overall feel to the village. It doesn't say you can only use these 3, but there's a book they can look through, you know. So, all right, anything else on the administration? Anything from the members want to report, things that they've want to mention for tonight? Co-chair, I'll start. I mentioned to Drew that I've seen reports of avian flu, not only killing birds, but that there's been large cullings of chicken farms at farms. And I asked are there any recommended practices or concerns we should share with our chicken owners in town to help fight this? So I guess I'm looking for experts to come in.
Masks.
Chicken mask?
Chicken masks?
So Minnesota, I just really feel like I'm screaming. I'll look for the source, but agency in Minnesota has recommended that you take down your bird feeders and stuff, because places where birds congregate is how it's distributed and spread.
Even in yards that don't have chickens or near neighbors, just everybody should
Just
take them down?
anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's going through the birding community. So I'll try to find that and
Okay.
send it not to everybody.
Okay, does our other co-chair have anything she wants to say?
No, other than this is probably my last meeting,
Second to last.
second to last meeting, sorry. Yeah, I have my house under contract, and I'm going to go south a little bit, just a couple of miles, and hope to get back here, but that's what it is.
You can't see, but I'm frowning.
Can't what?
You can't see, but I'm frowning.
Oh, no, I can't see, or hear that you're frowning either, apparently, so.
Well,
Anyways, it's been fun.
Yes, I want to thank you for your years of support and your leading the charge on the bees and chickens. It's been a great change for the village, and everyone seems to be, it's a better place for your involvement.
Thank you.
You
Well,
bet.
I'm sorry to be leaving before we have the other side of that equation done, bikes and lights. But,
Well, you'll still be in the area.
yeah,
Stay tuned.
stay tuned, exactly.
We haven't seen the last of you, that's
No,
for sure.
Okay.
Favorite quote from you.
duh, yeah. And, yeah, meeting adjourned, that
Yes.
one, that would be the other one.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
moved.
moved.
And second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
I really say duh all the time.
You did for what, I forget which program it was, and you were like, somebody said something like, is it, this a good thing? Is it, this a good thing?